Cricket is a gentleman's sport promoting harmony, team play and solidarity amongst its players. But the gentleman's sport has been affected by racism for far too long. The racist allegations disclosed by the Yorkshire county cricketer Azeem Rafiq about his teammates and staff is just a new chapter in the old racist book of cricket. In the 1960s and 70s, it was a standard feature of the crowd at Headingley to chant racial slurs at the non-white players. What is hard to imagine is that sometimes a few players also joined in with the crowd. The Yorkshire County Cricket Board admitted that some of the teammates of Rafiq were to be blamed for inappropriate behaviour, but no disciplinary action was taken against them. The English Cricket Board suspended the Yorkshire club for hosting any international matches. We look at some of these infamous racist incidents that have plagued the gentleman's game. BASIL Luis de Oliveira, nicknamed Dolly, was an England international cricketer who was born in South Africa. He was one of the Wisden Cricketers of the Year for 1967. Dolly was selected in the English squad due to an injury to Tom Cartwright for the scheduled 1968-69 tour of apartheid-era South Africa. Prime Minister of South Africa, DJ Worcester, had already made it clear that de Oliveira's inclusion was not acceptable, and despite many negotiations, the tour was cancelled. As a result, South Africa was excluded from Test cricket for 22 years. In 2000, Dolly was nominated as one of 10 South African cricketers of the century, despite not having played for South Africa. Because Dolly the sheep's DNA came from a mammary gland cell, she was named after the country singer Dolly Parton. The England captain, Tony Greig, stated on TV, ahead of the 1976 series against the West Indies, "We are going to make, with the help of Closey and a few of my mates, we are going to make the Windies grovel." In an era where racial bias was generally widespread, grovel was an inappropriate word to use. Greig's grovel remark framed the tempers of the West Indian players. It propelled them to the great West Indies ascendancy in the game of cricket under the leadership of Clive Lloyd. Richards, who did not take kindly to the word grovel, blasted 829 runs in 4 matches with 300s and 250s. West Indies demolished England 3-0 in the 5-match series. In the years between June 1980 till March 1995, West Indies did not lose a single Test series. Grovel, to lie or creep with the body prostrate in token of subservience or abasement. In 1983, Colin Croft, the West Indian bowler, on a rebel tour to South Africa, was travelling with Raymond Roos, a white man, in a whites-only train compartment. The train conductor, Willie Van Zyl, asked Croft to leave the whites-only carriage. Roos then accompanied Croft to a third-class carriage meant for non-whites. The South African government, who had arranged the rebel tour to improve its image to the outside world, was deeply embarrassed as people compared the Croft debacle with Mahatma Gandhi incident of 1893, when the great leader was thrown out of a South African train for not obeying the white government's law of segregated carriages while travelling in a whites-only carriage. It seemed that nothing had changed much in the past 90 years. A momentous change was long overdue. And then 15 years after the incident in 1983, Colin Croft was touring South Africa as a commentator when Raymond Roos and the conductor of the train, Willie Van Zyl, approached Croft and apologized profusely for their conduct on the short-sighted coloured train. Nelson Mandela became the first colour person to become South Africa's president. On February 29, 1996, Minos, Kenya stunned the 2-time world champions West Indies by a whooping margin of 73 runs during the league stages of the 1996 World Cup. Chasing 167, the strong Richie Richardson-led side, which featured the likes of Richardson, Brian Lara, Shiv Narayan Chanderpaul and Jimmy Adams, were routed for a measly 93. Brian Lara did not generously acknowledge the defeat and went into the Kenyan dressing room after the match to comment on the game. A reporter from Outlook magazine who was present in the dressing room attributed these words to Brian Lara. "It wasn't that bad losing to you guys. You are black. Know what I mean? Now a team like South Africa is a different matter altogether. You know, this white thing comes into the picture. We can't stand losing to them." Lara denied ever calling the Kenyans black, though he never clarified what they should be called. Kenya became the first ever associate nation in 2003 to enter a World Cup semi-final. After being run out in an ODI against Sri Lanka in Brisbane in 2003, Darren Lehman was heard comparing black female intimate body parts with the Sri Lankan players whilst walking all the way back to the Australian dressing room. The Sri Lankan authorities were furious and lodged a complaint to the referee Clive Lloyd. The ICC banned Lehman for 5 ODIs under the recently introduced ICC Code of Conduct. After the incident, Lehman apologized to the Sri Lankan team in person and through a letter. Lehman once described the incident as the biggest mistake of his life. He now wisely acknowledges that the female intimate body parts come in all colors. Darren Lehman quit in 2018 as coach of Australian team after the Sandpapergate scandal. Dane Jones, one of Australia's greatest ODI batsmen turned commentator, was sacked by 10 Sports for his on-air racial stereotyping remark. The incident occurred during the 4th day's play of a test match between Sri Lanka and South Africa in Colombo in 2006. On Sean Pollock's bowling, Kumar Sangakkara struck uppishly and straight into the hands of Hashim Amla at point. As the South African team huddled together to celebrate, the camera zoomed in on Amla and Jones was heard saying, "The terrorist gets another wicket." Jones apologized for his comment and stated that what he said was insensitive and stupid and he did not intentionally want to hurt anyone. He added that he had a lot of respect for the Muslim faith and thus was sorry for making such a stupid comment. He confessed that it was hard for him to grasp that his terrorist remark will create such an explosion. Dane Jones died of a stroke in Mumbai in December 2020 at the age of 59. The Indian tour of 2007-2008 will always be remembered for the infamous Sydney Test where Andrew Symonds alleged that Harbhajan Singh called him a monkey. Harbhajan, who was batting with Sachin Tendulkar, touched Brett Lee on the back with his bat, seemingly saying hard luck after he had edged a boundary past the slips. Though Lee did not show much reaction to Harbhajan's provocation, Symonds walked up to Harbhajan and swore at him. Terry Markey, Harbhajan swore back and often used cuss word in Indian language which Symonds mistook as monkey. Though Terry Markey in this context referred to Symonds' mother's nether regions, which seems more unacceptable than calling someone a lowly primate. As they are from down under, the Australian team stuck with monkey as Symonds was the only black player in the Australian side. After hearing both sides, match referee Mike Proctor announced a 3-match ban on Harbhajan Singh. The Indians were displeased and appealed against the ban. They threatened to abandon the tour and fly home if the ban on Harbhajan was not lifted. Consequently, Harbhajan was fined 50% of match fees and the ban was lifted. A lesser charge of using abusive language instead of a racial comment was applied to Harbhajan's inappropriate words and the tour went on. In the IPL season of 2011, Harbhajan and Symonds both played for Mumbai Indians. Geoffrey Boycott, an opening batsman for England, played 108 tests, scoring 8,114 runs with 22 centuries, retired in 1982. During a Q&A session at an event in 2017 with the West Indies tour of England ongoing, Boycott claimed the honour was handed out like confetti to West Indian greats like Sir Vivian Richards and Sir Curtly Ambrose. English cricketers had mostly been ignored for the honour as it was last received by Sir Alec Bedser in 1997. Ian Botham was knighted in 2007 for services to charity. Boycott infamously stated, "Mine's been turned down twice, I'd better black me face. Oh, you poor white boy." Boycott himself has given the reason for not being knighted because of his conviction in France for assaulting his former girlfriend Margaret Moore in 1996. The former England captain was fined around £5,000 and given a 3-month suspended sentence after being convicted of beating Miss Moore in a French Riviera hotel. Boycott was finally knighted in February 2020 at Buckingham Palace amid public disgust.